All right, let's get right into it. When we hear strict parents, a lot of us think about discipline, right? But what about the stuff that sticks with you long after you've moved out? Today, we're going to dig into the subtle, long-term effects of a strict upbringing, those little behaviors and patterns that can follow us for years, all based on real stories and some solid psychology.
So let's start with a quick gut check right here. Just think about it for a second. Do you ever catch yourself turning a statement into a question? Like you're making a decision, but it comes out like you're asking for approval? This feeling, this little habit, it's a huge clue, and it's something we're going to explore.
And boom, this just hits the nail on the head. This isn't just some quirky little habit. It's a learned behavior. This person on Reddit captured it perfectly. It's that feeling of needing someone to sign off on a decision that is 100% yours to make. It's like an old program just running in the background of your mind.
Here's another one that might sound really familiar. The constant apology. You know, that reflex to say I'm sorry for things that have nothing to do with you, or even for just taking up space. It's like you're trying to put out a fire before it even starts, a conflict that you're just conditioned to expect, even when there's no threat at all.
And this last quote, this is where it gets really serious. These things that seem small, asking for permission, saying sorry all the time, they're often signs of something much deeper. A real struggle with making your own choices and handling your emotions, which, as you can imagine, can have some pretty big consequences later in life.
So to really get why these behaviors pop up, we need to zoom out from the personal stories and look at the psychology behind it all. I mean, what does strict even mean? Turns out there's a clinical term for it that paints a much clearer picture.
And that term is authoritarian parenting. According to research, like studies from UCLA, this is way more than just having a lot of rules. It's a whole system built on one thing. You do what I say, no questions asked. And the methods used to enforce that, they can be things like guilt trips or even withdrawing affection to keep control.
And this slide right here makes the difference crystal clear. Look, both styles can have high expectations. That's not the issue. The absolute game changer is responsiveness. Authoritarian parents, high demands but low responsiveness. Their reason is, because I said so. End of story. But authoritative parents, high demands but also high responsiveness. They set the rules, but they're willing to say, let's talk about why. And that conversation, that dialogue, it changes everything.
All right, so now we get to the heart of it. We're going to break down 3 common survival behaviors that adults who grew up in these environments often carry with them. And listen, these aren't character flaws, not at all. They are creative solutions that you came up with as a kid to keep yourself safe.
First up, the people pleaser. And this is probably one you've heard of. This is that person who finds it almost physically painful to say no. And it's not because they're just super nice. It's because deep down, saying no feels dangerous.
This quote from Reddit just lays it all out, doesn't it? When setting a boundary or just disagreeing was met with something harsh, you learn pretty quick that just going along with things is the path of least resistance. It becomes a strategy, a habit that's really hard to break.
So let's unpack that. It all starts with no being treated like a bad word. You'll learn that conflict is something to be avoided, no matter what. And pretty soon, the very idea of a boundary feels scary. Your brain starts to connect making other people happy with your own safety and your own sense of being worthy of love.
Okay, next up is a behavior we touched on a minute ago, the compulsive apologizer. And this goes way beyond just being polite. This is a pattern of taking the blame for things that are completely out of your hands.
Wow, I mean, this is a really intense example, but it shows just how deep this can go. In an environment like this, a kid learns that their job is to manage the parent's feelings, even to the point of apologizing for their own pain. You start to truly believe that you are responsible for how other people feel. So what's going on in our heads to make this happen? Well, it's like a harsh inner critic is born. You basically take your parents' critical voices and you put them on a loop inside your own mind. Apologizing just becomes a reflex, a tool to shut down a threat before it can even start, all because of this deep fear of messing up.
This third one is fascinating because it's such a clever adaptation. When your world is super restrictive, you don't always become a straight-up liar. Instead, you become a master of secrets, an expert in leaving things out.
I just love this quote because it's so incredibly specific and honest. It's not about being malicious or deceitful. It's about getting really good at creating alternate realities. You know, telling the truth, but maybe not the whole truth, as a way to carve out a little bit of space for yourself. So why does this happen? Honestly,
It's survival. When being totally honest could get you in trouble, secrecy becomes a tool. It's how you get your needs met without causing a fight. You learn to keep two sets of books, the official story you tell everyone else, and the private one that's just for you. It's a strategy to keep the peace and hold on to a piece of yourself.
Okay, so recognizing all this stuff is the first half of the battle. But the second half, the part that really matters, is what we do about it. So for this last section, we're going to shift gears and talk about real actionable steps you can take to reclaim your own life and start writing new rules.
And let's just start with this. This is the most important message, and it comes from the Chelsea Psychology Clinic. As an adult, you are in the driver's seat now. The past might explain where you came from, but it absolutely does not have to decide where you're going. Things do not have to stay this way. So the clinic lays out 4 really practical steps. Step 1, take ownership. Figure out who you are away from anyone else's expectations. Step 2, establish boundaries. Start small. Practice saying no when the stakes are low. 3, communicate what you need, clearly and simply. And 4, if money is ever used as a tool for control, working toward financial independence can be a huge step in proving you can stand on your own 2 feet. And this piece of advice from Reddit, man, it is so simple but so powerful. Boundaries are not something you ask permission to have. They're not a negotiation. They are a statement of fact about what is and is not okay with you. You state them. You don't ask for them.
And it's so important to remember, this whole journey isn't about pointing fingers or assigning blame. A lot of parents were probably just repeating what they learned themselves. This is about healing. It's about breaking a cycle so that you can live a freer, more authentic life, and so that these patterns stop with you.
You know, just seeing these behaviors in yourself is a huge first step. The next step is choosing to do something different, no matter how small. Maybe it's saying no to something tiny today, or making a decision and not asking for anyone's approval, or just letting a small mistake go without apologizing. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. What's the first new sentence you're going to write for yourself?